Host Julian Rubenstein.
Blog Talk Radio.
Sponsor program are strictly those of its host, guests, and callers and are not necessarily those of the station, staff, management, or sponsors.
Here's hoping you're healthy and wealthy. South Florida's Health and Wealth Radio Network. AM 1470, WWNN, Pompano Beach.
AM 1470, with even more information you can use. Join pharmacist and educator Jerry Hickey for the Invite Health Radio Show at a new time, Monday through Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Tune in for the latest information on nutrition and cutting-edge solutions to your most pressing health problems. It's the Invite Health Radio Show with pharmacist and educator Jerry Hickey at a new time, Monday through Friday mornings at 10 a.m. right here on AM 1470 WNN, South Florida's all-new Health and Wealth Network.
Learning Nest Academy Incorporated reminds our listeners that each year innocent children are being physically or mentally abused. These children are extremely vulnerable, and their only hope is for the adult community to come to their aid. If you observe any signs of child abuse or neglect, please contact the local authorities immediately. That's courtesy of Learning Nest Academy Incorporated in Miami Gardens. They're another local concerned and involved business working towards a safer community for us all. That's Learning Nest Academy Incorporated, on the air because they care.
AM 1470 WNN is now the Health and Wealth Network, featuring more of the information you're looking for. Join us for the best health programs every day. Then, in late afternoons and evenings, tune in for more information for your financial success. Only on AM 1470 WNN, South Florida's all-new Health and Wealth Network. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of its host, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of the station, its staff, management, or sponsors. This is the Holistic Lifestyles Radio Show, brought to you by Holistic Lifestyles Radio Incorporated. Join us every day on AM 1470 WNN, South Florida's Health and Wealth Network. For more information about the show and our sponsors, be sure to visit our website, holisticlifestylesradio.com. That's holisticlifestylesradio.com. You can also find us on our Twitter podcast, Facebook, and blogtalkradio.com. Now, today's program.
Hey, what's happening? Welcome back. Of course, we are here live on WNN 1470 AM, and the light just popped on, and of course, we want to say hello to Joe behind the glass. Thanks, Joe. We love you. And most importantly, we are here in South Florida. Not so sunny this morning or this afternoon here at 2:02, but of course, it is going into the Mother's Day weekend, and we want to wish everybody a happy, safe Mother's Day weekend, and most importantly, happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers. So we have, of course, our guest in on Friday is Trip Bechert from Bechert Associates, and we are going to be talking about some things today. First of all, before we get into the whole legal hour and start discussing the legal hour, let's look at some of the things that have been taking place in the world today.
Okay.
What this whole thing with bin Laden, the whole thing with the legal aspect of they're now challenging certain things, and they're looking at leaving tail rudders in other countries that might have some of our top secrets. What do you think about all of that?
Well, I think, first of all, the fact that we killed bin Laden is kind of bittersweet because it just fuels the fire. I hate us being looked upon by the rest of the world that we are just warmongers and that we're looking to flex our power. This guy had to go, but I think we could have done it a little bit quieter, a little bit more gentler way. Just take the guy out and be done with it. They don't have to publicize it and celebrate it and make it a big deal, because I think it just fuels the psychos that are out there to retaliate more and to really want to make the 10th anniversary of 9/11 another target date for them to do something against the U.S. That's what I fear. I agree that we should kill them. I agree that we should have gotten rid of them. In my opinion, I'm opposed to us not being able to assassinate leaders of foreign nations. I think it's appropriate in some instances. Gaddafi, Castro, bin Laden, Saddam Hussein, these guys, they should not be allowed to
go through the system.
No, absolutely not.
And of course, it just, clogs up the system, and millions of dollars to give him a podium or give them a podium that they get to speak from, and and again, I'm in agreement. But I look at the whole thing as I had this pit in my stomach. I was watching the other night as the Georgetown kids were all out, and and they were in a frenzy. And hey, listen, I understand that aspect of it to a certain degree, but at the same time, if you've lost family members or people that have been there, you're right, it is bittersweet. None of those folks were dancing in the streets.
No.
They were happy.
Yes.
But at the same time, it doesn't bring back
your loved ones.
Right.
It's not going to ease the pain. It's not going to to rebuild the site of the Twin Towers. It's not anything that really can be resolved by killing some guy. And from what I hear, he was really not that active, quote, anymore anyway. I mean, we've got to start looking for the number 2, number 3 guys that are actually actively in the system, planning and plotting against the U.S. and these other free worlds.
I think the intel that came out of this is probably going to be huge. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that there's huge intel that came out of it. So, I mean, on that aspect of it, I think we did quite well. But leaving, a new Black Hawk behind that has stealth capabilities, and of course the stealth information, we blew everything up, but that part of the. I mean,
Well, I think it surprises me that we don't have a self-destruct mechanism on something that valuable. I mean, we have all of this other technology, and they wouldn't think to put something like that on there just in this contingency, because they said, we plan for every contingency. Well, but this one.
It's almost like the Gulf War stuff.
Exactly. And it's sad that
it looked good on paper.
When we are on holistic lifestyle radio, and we're talking about kinder and gentler ways of doing things, whether it be from a medical perspective, not medicating, not operating, more of a natural approach to things. When I talk about divorce, a lot of times, I mean, there is the reality that you have to do divorce in a certain way when you deal in the legal system a certain way. But even in war, I mean, that's why I kind of think the more silent assassination approach would have been better, and not celebrated. Look, he's done. It's a bad guy. Why are we going to give him any more credence by making it a big deal? He's dead. Let's move on.
Airtime.
It sells papers and sells advertising.
And I'm glad that you posed it that way, because in the end, I mean, it's done. It is over with, and we get to move on with that particular person. So, one of the things that you look at as far as gun laws and lobbyists and all of the things that are taking place for because the reality is now is if you start to look at the situations that they found out about with the trains and all of that stuff, and do you believe in a way that we're taking the guns away from the people that really, don't have an issue with carrying a gun, and maybe they should carry a gun, but at the same time we're leaving it open for a person on the street to have a gun that is more the seedier type person that really shouldn't have a gun? I mean, by putting gun laws in place like we should to a certain degree, I also think that we're stunting our own safety. I'll give you a perfect example. Several years ago at Lums in Texas, do you remember that? The guy came in and shot the place up. Texas had just passed a law stating that you couldn't carry it into a restaurant. You could carry it in your car, but when you were going into a restaurant, you were going into a church or a bar or anything like that, you couldn't carry your gun. And they had made that law and that change. And it was a couple of weeks after that, this guy goes in and shoots up this place. And one of the ladies that was there stated that her gun was in her car, and she wouldn't have lost her mom and her dad, all were killed in front of her that day, if she had the right to carry her gun in there. So in our own public safety.
Well, I think you make a very good point. That is a perfect example of how the law backfired. And I am a proponent of education and of responsible use of all sorts of sporting activities, whether they may or may not be considered dangerous or not. My dad taught us how to hunt at a very early age. Took us out, quail hunting and duck hunting out here in the Everglades when we were kids. Before my dad passed, every year at Christmas time, he would take us up to Lake Okeechobee. We would shoot ducks in the lake. And it became just kind of a time for us to get together. He took me to Africa between law school and grad school, and I was there for a month on safari, and it was something that it was a life-changing experience for me. Do I think because we simply regulate guns out of the hands of responsible citizens, it's going to make it safer for us to live as citizens? Absolutely not. I think we should do it more in tune of driver's licenses, just like we do with the carry permits. You make them take a course, you make them register their ability to carry a gun and or to identify the weapons. And if you're caught without that registration, you lose that right, and there are severe penalties for that. I know it's kind of like a civil liberties. People probably up in arms saying, why would you do something like that, and why do you have to disclose and this and that? Because I think it makes it more reasonable that you've taken a course, that you know how to handle a firearm responsibly, because there is a responsibility to that type of a sporting event or to an activity, because it's a very dangerous thing. And if you don't know what you're doing, somebody can innocently get hurt. And a lot of people buy a handgun from Joe Schmo or get one bequeathed to them because their parents passed away and they've got Uncle Bob's old revolver. And that's how things happen. They've never handled a gun before. They've never gone to the range. They've never loaded it. They've never had somebody go through all of the steps necessary to protect themselves and their loved ones from an accident. And then an accident happens and everybody's in an uproar. Oh, my God, you should take away all the guns. No, you should educate the people on how to use them properly or not issue them a license to have one. It's just that simple. At least that's the way I feel about it.
And again, I'm looking at the safety end of it. Okay.
I have a handgun next to my bed. Mm-hmm. I have a 2-year-old daughter, mm-hmm. and that handgun is in what they call a safe lock, and it requires my common. You have to press the buttons in a certain sequence in order for that to open safely. So there's no way in the world she could get in there. But at the same time, I have it in my home to protect my 2-year-old daughter. So if somebody were to come in my home, I would be able to stop that intrusion. I also have a carry permit, so when I go to restaurants or to other locations, I'm able to carry that gun. And if somebody were to do something and put my family in harm's way, I would be able to defend us.
That brings up let's look at the legality of it.
Okay.
So if you are in a position where you're carrying a gun, mm-hmm. and you have to be under an imminent threat for you to be able to discharge that gun, is that correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, you can't just
if somebody came in and they were robbing somebody else, could you intervene on that situation, or where's the law stand?
Well, the law doesn't necessarily allow me to discharge my weapon and kill somebody to stop a robbery. But more likely than not, if you intervened into that robbery situation, the gun would be shifted from the teller to you, and then you would have an imminent expectation of death or bodily harm, and
pointed at you.
Yeah, and then you could protect yourself. But but by the same token, if you're in a store and you draw your weapon and you say, "Drop your weapon, get down on the floor. I'm going to shoot you if you turn around." And this person who's robbing a store happens to turn on you, and you believe he's going to shoot you, and you shoot him first. Realistically, you may be indicted, but what's the likelihood of a conviction in a situation like that? I mean,
absolutely.
The state may require what they call a jury pardon. They're not going to turn a blind eye. Technically, you did something wrong. They'll try you knowing that a jury of your peers will more likely than not acquit you. Is it correct? No. You don't want to put yourself in those situations, and that's the whole premise behind carry permits. Don't allow yourself to get caught up in those situations. This isn't the Wild West.
Yeah,
you're not given a carry permit to go off like Wyatt Earp. You're there to protect yourself and your loved ones, period.
So, and of course, this comes back to what you were saying, the education aspect of it. So if you're educated properly on all of that, Now, when we take this a step further and we take into account that, hey, listen, we live in some really off-the-chain times. I mean, look around. I mean, it's really crazy. A lot of it, I believe, has to do with the economy. A lot of it has to do, and it's been this way for years. For the last 200 years in this country, whenever there's a bad time, of course, bad things start to happen, crime raises, a whole 9 yards. So we're in a position now where we have to really be careful of our surroundings. So when you're in parking lots, when you're in certain places, you need to really know who's around and what you're doing, and to be safe, carrying pocketbooks and making sure that you're safe while you're making your journeys. What are some of the things that, if you go into a parking lot, I'm sure that there's certain situations as victims.
Well, from that perspective, if you go to, and we'll use something that's very current, the Boca Town Center. Right. There's been several publicized murders and kidnappings that have taken place at that particular establishment. And one of the things that's required in a situation like that is that the actual facility needs to provide its patrons an expectation of safety, especially if they're on notice that something like this has happened before. Not so much maybe for the very first victim, but if there is if it's known that somebody is being jacked at the ATM machine, or that they're targeting certain people, and they don't beef up security, they don't put extra lights out there, and they don't do anything to protect the safety and welfare of those patrons, they incur a liability there, and that becomes it's not a criminal liability; it becomes a monetary liability. The families are going to sue the Boca Town Center and say, look, you should have known, or you did know, that your mall did not provide adequate security, and my wife or my mom or my grandmother was killed there or kidnapped from there, and this has happened before, and we have incident reports that it's happened before, and you didn't do anything to correct it. You go there now, and it's like you every 10 feet there's a security guard there.
Fort Knox over there, which is good stuff.
Which is very good stuff. I mean, they've really stepped it up, and I'm sure it's based on a liability issue.
And when you look at the legality end of it as a victim, where's a victim's rights? Well,
victims' rights are actually run on several different levels. From a criminal level, if a person commits a crime against you and they're convicted in court, or they plea bargain, typically the court requires them, as an element of any sort of sentence or probation, that they make restitution to the victims for any out-of-pocket expenses that they've incurred. Unfortunately, as we are all too well aware, a lot of the criminals are simply indigent and don't have anything. That's why they're represented by the public defender's office or by a private attorney appointed by the court, and the court pays them. So the court, the victims in this particular situation will apply to the State of Florida Victims Compensation Fund, which is available to victims of crimes that are committed against them, and they too can apply for out-of-pocket expenses. Again, that's one avenue through the criminal system. There's also the civil system. I had a client who unfortunately was a mother of 3, and she went over to her estranged boyfriend's house on Christmas, and he stabbed her in the chest and killed her. And the mom knew, as well as everybody knew, that he was kind of a loose cannon, and that he had beat up on her before, and the mom was the one who invited her over there to try to patch things up. Well, she gets over there and her son kills her. So the homeowner's insurance paid their policy limits for that particular act. Not that there aren't exclusions, not that there aren't insurance companies that would say, I wouldn't pay that claim, but this particular insurance company said, you know what, we don't want to take our chances. We'd rather just tender the policy limits. I think it was $100,000, and they gave it to the 3 kids in a trust. So there are mechanisms available for that when acts are committed like that.
So I mean, I'll give you one of the ones that I thought about, through this whole thing was the chiropractor down in Miami that was in Houston's parking lot.
Again, that was a very good friend of mine, and he and I had done personal injury cases together. He had treated a lot of my patients. And whether he referred me the patient or I had referred him the patient as a result of an automobile accident. He was at Houston's restaurant in the parking lot. He was a former University of Miami basketball star. He was a great guy. And out of nowhere, he gets shot over a parking spot. And so the question then becomes, did Houston's or the owner of that particular parking lot know or should have known that there was a problem there, that they have had this type of activity or these type of problems and done nothing about it? I don't know what the outcome of all that was. I don't know whether, in addition to that, Houston's knew or should have known that there was a problem with that particular type of activity, because a lot of it hinges on notice.
Okay.
I have a case against Palm Beach County School Board right now. I represent 3 third graders who were molested by their teacher. And the biggest question and hurdle that we have to get over is, did the school board know or should they have known that this teacher was doing some type of activity like this and they did nothing about it? Well, our position is yes, they were on notice, because there was a father from 2 classes or 2 years before that who made a complaint and they did nothing about it, and they didn't let anybody know that they had a third grader teacher as a pedophile. Now, the problem is yes, I can sue and win easily against the pedophile, the teacher. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't have any deep pockets. Right. And how am I going to pay for the children's counseling and their therapy for the rest of their lives? Because as a third grader, carrying
that trauma for the rest of your life.
Correct. So how do I compensate them? Well, I have to get some money from the county, and of course they're not wanting to pay nickel one on this particular claim, and they're not admitting liability at all.
Well, it brings in the whole Catholic Church thing, and all of that too.
I mean, you can go right down the line there. I mean, the Catholic, unfortunately, the Catholic Church has been aware of this for a long time, and they stuck their head in the sands.
And I think that's why they just write the checks.
Well, now they don't have a choice. They are uninsurable for this particular type of act. They were sued back in the 70s, and after that, the insurance companies wouldn't touch them. And you can roll that argument into, why are we allowing priests to just be men? Why don't we allow women to be priests, and why don't we allow them to get married? And so we remove this thing from the whole cycle. So you could take this thing all the way down the line.
We could run this chicken a long way.
Exactly.
We're going to go out to a break. Of course, we're here with our friend Trip Bechert from Bechert Associates, PompanoAttorney.com. Check him out. He is a great guy. We'll be back right after this message.
It's the hottest new addiction recovery mega community on the web, Rockers in Recovery. Music, news, interviews, events, and festivals with an insider's angle to the rock and roll industry, all backed up by artists who are in recovery and support recovery, featuring dozens of rock legends like former Joan Jett and the Blackhearts lead guitarist Ricky Byrd, Richie Supa of Aerosmith, and tons more. It's a worldwide music and media festival at your fingertips. Get inside the rock and roll recovery scene with a click of your mouse. Click rockersinrecovery.com. That's rockersinrecovery.com.
Attention, the 4th annual 12-Step Music Fest is coming November 3rd through the 6th in Sugarloaf Key, Florida. 4 days of music and fun with 12 musical acts along with the Rockers in Recovery supergroup featuring Ricky Byrd, guitarist formerly of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Liberty DeVito, formerly of Billy Joel, Woody Geisman of the Del Fuegos, Kason Sultan of Todd Rundgren and Utopia, Christine Ullman of the Saturday Night Live Band, and 4 more to be announced by September. Find out more about this sober Woodstock in Sugarloaf Key by joining rockersinrecovery.com or by calling 877-799-8773.
My name is Charles Bechert. If you or a loved one has been injured in an accident due to the negligence of another, care enough to hire Bechert Associates to protect your rights. We are an AV-rated law firm and have 45 years of combined experience. We are all former prosecutors and have all worked for the insurance companies, so we know what they're up to. They have their attorneys, and so should you. When involved in an accident, remember, you may be entitled to $10,000 in medical or lost wages under your PIP policy. In addition, you may receive payments for your pain, suffering, or for the suffering of a loved one. Contact us at 954-941-8363 or visit us on the web at southfloridaattorney.com.
The hiring of an attorney is an important decision that should not be based solely upon advertising. Ask for free written information about the firm's qualifications and experience. Are you ready to explode your business? Then you are ready to take advantage of the massive marketing power of the Holistic Lifestyles Radio Network. Advertise your business, product, or service with one of the most powerful multimedia platforms on the planet. With more than 300,000 online listeners, 30 social media outlets, and a booming 15 hours of live programming on South Florida's 50,000-watt mega giant, AM 1470 WNN. Your business will be exposed to hundreds of thousands of active, progressive consumers hungry for your products and services. You'll be featured on blogs, live streams, social media, at live events, and on hundreds of archived podcasts, including Rockers in Recovery, the East Coast music scene, Defending Your Money, and dozens more. Plus, prime-time national exposure during major festivals from Las Vegas to Boston and the Florida Keys. Get ready to take your business to the next level and jumpstart your branding strategy. Advertise your events, products, and services on the Holistic Lifestyles Radio Network. Call now for special discounted packages, 877-799-8773. That's 877-799-8773. Or visit holisticlifestylesradio.com. You are listening to the Holistic Lifestyles Radio Show, brought to you by Holistic Lifestyles Radio Incorporated. For more information about the show and our sponsors, be sure to visit our website, holisticlifestylesradio.com. That's holisticlifestylesradio.com. Now, back to today's show.
Hey, welcome back. Of course, you're listening to John Hollis and Trip Bechert. Trip Bechert is from Bechert Associates, Pompano Beach attorney that is known all over the state of Florida. Not only does, of course, criminal law and family law, also does law when it comes to people that might have had an accident, right?
Yeah, we do a lot of personal injury, and we also represent folks that aren't paid their wages for overtime and unpaid wage claims and foreclosure. So those are really the primary areas that we focus on. The family laws, divorce, child support, all that kind of stuff. Criminal, it's an obvious one.
Now, there's 3 attorneys altogether in your office.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And at this point, I mean, let's take, because you just said something that's amazing, the foreclosure market. Mm-hmm. The foreclosure market right now, everybody, was hoping that it was over, but nobody's really understanding that next arm is coming due.
Right.
And it's happening right now.
Right.
So there's more coming into the system right now. Instead of being alleviated, there's actually more coming into it.
Well, the foreclosure market is a very cyclical thing. You're going to have waves, what they call waves of the foreclosures that are coming in, and the bank has been actually put so many in suit, and then the courts kind of put a moratorium on them. They require that all new suits now are actually mediated before they're able to go through and to conclusion by summary judgment or by final judgment hearings. And it's one of those situations where the homeowners or the commercial owners of property need to really start worrying about it up front instead of waiting until their court date. The banks really are going to require documents that you need to provide to them that you'll never be able to provide. The banks are simply using this mediation process and this litigation process right before the foreclosure summary judgment hearings to simply gather more documents against you. And I don't know whether it's actually fruitful or not. I don't know that this procedure that they've set up is really going to benefit anybody. In addition to being an active litigator in the Florida bar, I'm also a certified circuit court, Supreme Court mediator, and I have a separate and above degree for mediation. mediations where I'm actually appointed by the courts in Broward and Dade County for mediating these foreclosure cases when they come before the court. And it's really a situation where the banks are not in a position at all right now to reduce the principal. If you have a $300,000 mortgage, they don't care that your house is upside down and your house is only worth $200,000. And the only way that you can really get yourself above water is to reduce the principal. And unfortunately, what they will do is they will foreclose on the property, and they will sell the property for $145,000 or $200,000. And they will take that $100,000 loss. But what people don't realize is that there are federal monies out there available to the banking industry that they're able to recoup a percentage of that loss from the feds. So they're really being made whole, whether people realize it or not. That's why the vast majority of these foreclosures that take place, the lenders don't go after the homeowner for what they call a deficiency judgment. Now, in certain instances, they will. And as the federal money tightens up, you'll probably see more and more of those deficiency judgment claims against the homeowners. But if you lose, if the house is foreclosed on and there's a $100,000 gap in what they're able to recoup from a short sale or from a foreclosure sale, typically they haven't been going after that. Now, will they sign off on that at mediation? That's another thing. They just refuse to do that. So it's really it's a one-sided game. The banks aren't going to give. They don't want to give. They say, well, come up with some money. Well, maybe we'll reinstate you, but you got to provide us this. You got to provide us that. And then when you get there, it's kind of a waste of time.
Well, and tell me if I'm right with this, because some of the things that we've been reading and some of the things that you hear about is the fact that the actual physical docs that you were supposed to have from your closing are no longer there.
Well, what that whole area of controversy stems from two separate law firms that were investigated and have either been indicted or are on the brink of indictment. And what they were doing is before you can actually prevail as a bank at summary judgment, which means that the court says, look, you don't have any defenses, the bank's going to take the property back. In a nutshell, and that's just kind of like an easy way to say it. But before you can do that, before the banks are able to do that, they need to provide certain documents, some of which are the actual loan documents from the original loan that took place. Historically, as everybody knows, you get a bank statement 1 month from one bank, and then next month you get another statement from another bank because your loan is sold and resold and resold. There was a central depository where all these loans were supposed to be kind of housed. And what was happening is nobody could find the paperwork. So the attorneys were preparing these, quote, affidavits of lost documents. And without having done any of the research, without having tried to even find the documents, they were signing these affidavits. They were having them notarized. And a lot of times the documents that they were submitting to the court predated the documents that were filed with the courts, so the courts were looking at these documents going, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. And it was only until defense attorneys started getting on board and really started to require the banks to produce the documents that are required instead of just kind of, okay, we'll go with it type of attitude, did they start seeing the inconsistencies and the fraud that was occurring on behalf of the banks and the law firms. Now, of course, the banks are saying, hey, we didn't know that the law firms were doing this. We were simply paying them to prosecute our cases, and if we didn't have the documents, we wouldn't have gone forward. Well, we all know that that's a load of malarkey. So what happens? I mean, what happens to the person that was in this situation? Well, in the situation where it's found out, the court's going to deny the motion for summary judgment, possibly sanction the bank, and they have sanctioned the attorney, and they're going to deny it, and the bank is not going to be able to get the property back. Well, it may not be ever, but they're going to make them reinstate the loan, or they're going to make them do something pretty drastic. because of the fraud that was committed. And a lot of times the banks don't want to go down that road.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to say, well, what are you going to make us do, Judge? Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to make you do. They don't want that answer. So what they do is they work out some sort of agreement and they figure it out. But what happens is these law firms that are guilty of this, one of which is being sued big time, that was down here in Broward, that did not just one bank, but probably was handling the foreclosures for 30 or 40 different banks. And that's where it got, and they went from something like 600 or 700 employees to none in a matter of months.
To the door being locked.
Exactly.
With a red flag on it. Well, here's one of the questions that comes out of that is the person that they didn't do the right legal maneuvering through. They did it illegal, and that person lost their house, and now they're sitting out a year and they've lost their house and they've lost that whole asset. Now, what's that person have? Do they have any recourse to the bank? Do they have any recourse to, of course, the lawyers are gone.
Well, and again, the liability really lies on the fraud that was committed by the attorneys, and they're going to have to go after their malpractice carriers or their insurance carriers for having committed that. Whether or not there's going to be an exclusion in that policy for having committed fraud that would disallow them to recover may or may, I don't know what those policies say. And, you're rest assured that the attorney has probably already filed for bankruptcy and is trying to, insulate himself from liability. But if you go down the Intercoastal and you're near the 17th Street Causeway, one of the largest homes smack dab on the Intercoastal is owned by that attorney. So it's probably worth $20 or $30 million. I mean, it's a barn when I tell you. 20,000 square feet of hundreds of feet of seawall. So this was a very lucrative business, and he kind of had a monopoly on that for a long time. But that's just one of. There are several firms that are all kind of being accused of that. I don't know whether there's been any determination as to whether or not they were guilty or not, or whether this was underlings that were guilty and he had no knowledge of it either. That could be the case, but. Unfortunately, as an attorney running a firm, you're charged with the responsibility of knowing what your employees and your associates are doing, just like I would. If one of my paralegals or another attorney in the office does something improper, steals money from a client or this or that, I'm the one who's responsible for it. And you're charged with, making sure you know what's going on.
Your name's all over the building.
Exactly.
Well, listen, folks, we're going to go out to another break, and, of course, when we come back, we'll have more of Trip Bechert, more of the Legal Hour. I'm John Hollis. You're listening to the Holistic Lifestyles Radio Network. Hang tight. We'll be back right after this message.
This is Ricky Bird, and I love my sound pillow.
Let me tell you about the Sound Pillow. Sound Pillow helps many people in early addiction recovery who suffer from stress, anxiety, fear, and long sleepless nights to get a comfortable night's sleep by providing a calming and soothing feeling for the mind's everyday distractions. Sound Pillow allows the mind to shut down, the body to relax, and the spirit to heal. Go online to soundpillow.com. That's soundpillow.com. And while you're there, check out the many endorsements from people and addiction treatment centers using the Sound Pillow. Don't lose another night's sleep. Call toll-free today, 877-846-6488. That's 877-846-6488. And let the healing begin. Go online to soundpillow.com. That's www.soundpillow.com.
Concert, Rockers in Recovery Memorial Day Weekend Concert, May 28th, 1:30 to 6:30 p.m., featuring Ricky Bird, guitarist of the NYC Hit Squad and formerly of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, along with Kasim Sultan, bassist of Todd Rundgren and Utopia, Mick Jagger and Celine Dion, along with 3 other great bands, Johnny B and the Road Dogs, Keep Coming Back Band, and Rhetoric. Come out and join us at the First Step Sober House Memorial Day free concert at 450 Southwest 2nd Street, Pompano Beach. To find out more, go to rockersinrecovery.com or call 877-799-8773.
My name is Charles Bechert. If you or a loved one has been injured in an accident due to the negligence of another, care enough to hire Bechert Associates to protect your rights. We are an AV-rated law firm and have 45 years of combined experience. We are all former prosecutors and have all worked for the insurance companies, so we know what they're up to. They have their attorneys, and so should you. When involved in an accident, remember, you may be entitled to $10,000 in medical or lost wages under your PIP policy. In addition, you may receive payments for your pain, suffering, or for the suffering of a loved one. Contact us at 954-941-8363 or visit us on the web at southfloridaattorney.com.
The hiring of an attorney is an important decision that should not be based solely upon advertising. Ask for free written information about the firm's qualifications and experience.
In the fast-paced world we live in, it's hard to find a company that has an impeccable reputation based on professional skill and knowledge, coupled with a strong work ethic, honesty, and integrity. Welcome to the world of Canatelli Builders Incorporated. Specialists in custom residential and commercial construction for 3 generations, CBI finishes the job as agreed and on time. Browse our website at www.canatellibuilders.com, read the testimonials, then call us at 954-977-2775 and let us add your name to our list of satisfied customers. While at the site, be sure to follow the link for complete information about Chinese drywall and what it may mean to you. Integrity, ethics, honesty, knowledge, performance, service, experience, Canatelli Builders. 954-277-2775. Canatelli Builders, the official contractor for the Florida Panthers.
You are listening to the Holistic Lifestyles Radio Show, brought to you by Holistic Lifestyles Radio Incorporated. For more information about the show and our sponsors, be sure to visit our website, holisticlifestylesradio.com. That's holisticlifestylesradio.com. Now back to today's show.
Hey, we're back, and I'm John Hollis, and we are here, of course, live on Rockers in Recovery, and, of course, the Holistic Lifestyles Radio Network, and the Legal Hour, and the Shift Guru, and there's all types of people hanging out on the Holistic Lifestyles Radio Network. And, of course, Trip Bechert has been with us from Bechert Associates for over a year now, about a year and a half, and it's been a great year and a half. Trip is also one of the sponsors of my upcoming concert May 28th that you just heard about on the ad. And, of course, if you didn't hear it, I'm going to tell you about it. May 28th at 450 Southwest 2nd Street in Pompano Beach, Florida, we are going to have Ricky Byrd, formerly of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, and currently...
John, where is that? Just give me a landmark.
If you come off of Atlantic and Dixie... If you're heading east towards the beach, you would make a right heading south on Dixie, and it's the first right-hand turn followed right back. Okay. It's a real simple process. And there's if you go to the website, holisticlifestylesradio.com, you can actually see the map. Okay, there's a map there.
So it's right there. It's right near my office, actually.
Yeah, it's right down the street from you. Okay. You might be able to open your door and listen.
Okay.
So we're hoping that you're going to be there. So in the meantime, you got Ricky Byrd with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. You have Kazim Sultan, who is with Todd Rundgren. He's also played for Celine Dion. He's also played for Mick Jagger. He's also played for Meatloaf. He's also played for a bunch of different artists he's played for. He's going to be there. We are also looking at having, of course, 3 other bands that are going to be playing. Actually, 4. Thrown Alive is the first band that's going to be coming on, followed by Rhetoric, followed by the Keep Coming Back band, followed by Johnny B and the Road Dogs, and then the main attraction. So we're really looking forward to having a great show. And
is there costs involved?
None. Free.
That's what I thought.
It's a free thing, and most importantly, free food.
Wow.
Memorial Day. So not only are you getting a free concert with great musicians, but you're also getting free food through that time period and free drinks. And
what's the facility there?
It's the First Step Sober House. First Step Sober House is very interesting in the process of how they deal with addiction and help of addiction. The First Step Sober House is a facility that has 280 beds. that deal with people that are coming re-entry from either jail or prison or are coming out of a treatment center.
They've been there a long time, right?
14 years, 15 years. Richard E., who entered him, was the gentleman that actually founded the property. And he passed away 3 years ago. He was shot and killed. And come to find out it was a past client that shot and killed him. And but in the meantime, Richard never gave up on anybody, and thousands of people were helped by him. And the legacy is being carried on by Chris Daltrey, and Chris is a great guy, and Chris D. now with the First Step Sober House every year on Memorial Day, because Richard was a Vietnam vet and a ranger, literally would have this big party and on Memorial Day weekend. So what we did this year is we incorporated the Rockers in Recovery concert with the Memorial Day bash that they always have, and there's going to be dunk tanks, and there's going to be everything you can imagine at this thing. You know?
How many people do you expect to show up?
We're figuring anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, they usually have 1,000. I mean, they usually have between 1,000 and 2,000. You incorporate the concert into it. It could be 2,000 to 3,000 people. So, and you know, it's a neighborhood thing. It's
and what are the hours?
Starts at 1:30 and goes until 7 for the concert. But I'm sure it's going to be ongoing.
Well, that's fantastic. That's going to be a great thing for Pompano. I'm glad it's there.
It's a community thing, you know. And I got to say this, that you know, when we did our first one in February, February 12th for the Valentine's Day Love of Recovery,
we made it on the beach then, right?
Yeah, we made it a free thing, and the reason that we made it free is because of two different things. First of all, we wanted the community to be able to be part of what was happening, and people that are in recovery. Now, listen, there are guys that are in recovery and ladies that are in recovery that are doing quite well. I mean, you know, anywhere from park place to park bench, addiction does not discriminate. So you have people that come in that can afford to pay. You know, if they wanted to pay $200 to go see a concert, they could do it. But at the same token, there's some people that come in that couldn't afford, you know, 10 cents.
They had to get back on their feet.
Correct. So the bottom line is what we wanted to do is we wanted to position this as a community event. And we have one more scheduled for September. And then we have the grand finale, which is, there is a cost involved, which is the 12-Step Music Fest, which will be happening down in Sugarloaf Cave. We've been doing it for the last 3 years, broadcasting live, and this is our 4th annual. And Dawn Wilder from No Matter What Productions and Holistic Lifestyles Radio Network and Rockers in Recovery Productions are all coming together and putting that on this year. The super group that we're leading up to is going to be amazing. We got Ricky Byrd, of course. We have Chasm Sultan that's going to be a part of that. We have Liberty DeVito, the drummer for Billy Joel. We also have Jeff Kazee from Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. We have Chris Stanton from Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes, Christine Ullman from the Saturday Night Live Band, and Woody Geisman from the Del Fuegos. And that's where we're at so far, and there's more to be announced. So we're looking at one hell of a Saturday night down there. It's going to be unbelievable. And the amazing part is everybody's in recovery.
That's great.
You know, so they all carry a message of hope from a platform of being, you know, in recovery. That's amazing. And on another note, I seen my friend Richie Supa on Channel 4 News today, and I seen him on Channel 7 News last night. And we just want to give a big hey hello to Richie Supa, because Richie is dedicated to carrying a message to a lot of people in recovery. And Last House on the Block is a great song, and if you get a chance, go to iTunes and download Last House on the Block. In the meantime, we were talking about some really good stuff here today, and we've talked about the legal issues of you know, people that have been harmed, victims of violent crimes, and we've talked about foreclosures. We've touched on a lot of different things today. One of the things that, you know, on the way out here, you know, I had a buddy of mine recently that was rear-ended.
Okay.
And was he, I mean, when you're rear-ended like that, you know, the first thing that it wasn't that bad, he didn't feel it that bad, and then 3 days later.
Yeah. Well, the problem with fender benders or rear-enders, you know, you have to understand that the first thing you need to do is get yourself evaluated by a professional. You wouldn't realize the number of cases that I have that have a small impact and 2 or 3 days later, the person wakes up and they feel like that they were just put in the tumble dryer, the dryer, because your adrenaline blocks the pain from the initial impact. And as you put time between yourself and the incident, the adrenaline subsides and that pain starts to develop. And as we're older, we don't quite bounce back like we used to. And what we typically call these things, if there's no break in the bone, is we call it a soft tissue injury. That doesn't mean it's any less damaging to your body, because you could have herniated discs, you could have complete misadjustments of your entire spinal cord. And it's very, very traumatic to your day-to-day routine. You can't sleep, you can't walk, you can't exercise, you can't do the normal things that you need to do. So, first of all, you need to document the damage to the vehicle while you're at the scene of the accident. People think, oh, why, I don't want to pull out my... Just take out your iPhone or your phone and snap a couple of pictures. Believe me, the 30 seconds that it takes you to do that will more than pay for itself 100 times over. The next thing you do is you need to go to see your doctor, or go see a chiropractor, go to the emergency room, go to your physician. The reason why you need to do that is twofold. Number one, your insurance pays for it. You're paying PIP insurance. It's no fault. It doesn't really matter whose fault the accident is. You're still eligible to be seen by one of the doctors and to have that medical provider's services paid for from your insurance. Your rates can't go up. They can't penalize you for going to treat, for lodging a claim. People think, oh, my God, I don't want to lay a claim. It'll come back at me. It can't, by law, do that unless you're at fault, unless you were the one at fault. But at the same time, you need to get that evaluation done. And a lot of times it's just that simple. Get yourself evaluated by a professional, and then you'll know where you stand. And if that doesn't, if the actual pain and whatnot doesn't subside, sometimes the doctor will send you out for a diagnostic test, an MRI, a CAT scan, something of that nature, and they will be able to look closer at the area you're complaining of to make a determination as to how much trauma you've had as a result of the insurance, as a result of that. The insurance companies are always going to try to say it was a low impact, it was pre-existing, it was this, it was that. And my response to all that is first of all, you need to document. You need to make sure that you have the comeback to all that. And the only way to do that is to go get seen by a doctor. And as far as the insurance companies, they have their lawyers. You need to get one. I mean, it's just that simple. You need somebody to advocate for you. You don't know the system. It's taken me 17 years to figure it out, and I still don't have it. You need to know where the inroads are and where they're not.
The litigation end of this, and it's changed. I mean, it's drastically changed, and they're still trying to change it even more. I mean, they're trying to make it where there's going to be no really legality or legal end for anybody to stand on when it comes to litigation and going to trial on anything. I mean, they've done it with malpractice or actually working their way this way.
The insurance companies, they have much stronger lobbyists than the Trial Lawyers Association and the hospitals and the doctors. And unfortunately, the insurance companies divide and conquer. What they will do is they will say, okay, we want this put in the bill. When they're passing legislation. And they know that the trial lawyers won't like it and the individual doctors won't like it, but if they put a little something in there to keep the hospitals happy, the hospitals will side with them. So now they've got the hospitals and the insurance companies sided against the little guys, and it becomes very difficult for the trial lawyers or the doctors to lobby like the insurance companies do. They've got the money. I mean, they don't get rich by paying claims. They get rich by denying claims. United Auto is one that's a perfect example of that. They do not pay claims. They just deny everything across the board, with a few exceptions. I've had to have the sheriff go to their office and execute on a judgment that I was given. I mean, it's just insane the tactics that some of these insurance, literally, with the sheriff with the moving trucks, ready to start taking computers out of their office to execute on a judgment that I had against them before they would go get a cashier's check and write me a check.
Wow.
I mean, so...
That's like going to any lengths, brother.
Exactly. I mean, but you got to do it, I mean, like, I want his desk and I want his computer, and believe it or not, the president came running out and said, I'll be at the bank in 2 minutes, I'll have you a check. But, I shouldn't have to do that.
And your oak desk is looking pretty good.
Yeah, but I mean, you shouldn't. I mean, but the normal guy who's paying his premium shouldn't have to go through that.
Correct.
They don't know what to do. They don't know how to get through this maze to get to the cheese. It's impossible. It's set up very unuser friendly. It's sad.
Well, hey, listen. Talk about user-friendly. We're going to talk about some user-friendly stuff. I want to talk to you about SouthFloridaAttorney.com. Go there, real user-friendly. It's going to tell you everything. Trip Bechert is going to talk to you about his bio and where he came from and how he came there and how he became a lawyer and what he's been doing for the last 15-plus years. And also, of course, it's going to talk about his practice and his partners and everything that they do together and what they do separately. And also there's going to be some other information there on different litigation and different situations, may it be from a car accident.
Call. We'll give you a free consultation.
What's the phone number?
No, 954-941-8363. Come by anytime.
See that? And in this day and age, you can make a phone call.
That's right.
Isn't it funny how that works?
Well, people don't realize that a lot of times they think, I go to a lawyer, it's going to cost me all this money just to talk to him. When somebody comes to me and they come in my office and they take the time to come see me, I make time for them and I give them a true evaluation of their case, and it doesn't cost them anything. If I take on the case, that's when the meter starts ticking. But until then, come see me. And if I don't have the answer, I will find you a lawyer that does, or I'll tell you your case isn't worth pursuing. And that's my honest opinion. You're welcome to go down the street and get another opinion, but I've been doing this long enough. I try to give you a fair estimation of what your expectations can be. And it doesn't cost you anything to do that. Whether it's criminal, whether it's from a divorce perspective, your accident cases, whether your employers ripped you off, immigration, we can help you out.
Full service law. And, of course, Charles Bechert is on every Friday, so if you want to check him out, you can listen to him right here on, of course, the Holistic Lifestyles Radio Network. Charles Bechert, attorney at law, and he is here as the Legal Hour on Friday. So, of course, Trip, we thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me again.
It's always a pleasure, man. And most importantly, if you're listening today and you're in South Florida, check out rockersandrecovery.com and join the new social media site that we have. It's a social website, social networking site. You can join and hang out. And, of course, Charles' information is there. It's also at Holistic Lifestyles Radio Network, and that's holisticlifestylesradio.com where you can find that. And join us on Facebook. And you also got a Facebook account too, right?
We do. Charles Bechert. Just look up Charles Bechert, and it has all of the information you need there and the links that are available.
And LinkedIn and all of that too.
Absolutely. So anything that you need, just come visit us. But again, a lot of times you have a specific question and you need to know what do I do? Just call. And we're able to help you out. 954-941-8363. And just ask, and we'll give you the best answer we can.
With that, of course, we're out. I'm John Hollis. We'll be back tonight at 10 o'clock with more of the same. Rockers in Recovery at 10 o'clock. We'll be back.
Thank you for listening to the Holistic Lifestyles Radio Show. This program is sponsored by Holistic Lifestyles Radio Incorporated. Join us every day right here on AM 1470 WNN. You can also find us on our Twitter podcast, Facebook, and blogtalkradio.com. For more information about the show and our sponsors, be sure to visit our website, holisticlifestylesradio.com. That's holisticlifestylesradio.com. All broadcast rights to this program are the property of Holistic Lifestyles Radio Incorporated. Rebroadcast of any portion of this program without express written consent is prohibited. The opinions expressed on this sponsored program are strictly those of its hosts and callers and are not necessarily those of this station, staff, management, or sponsors. The preceding program is a Rockers in Recovery radio production. Rights to this program are the sole rights of Rockers in Recovery Radio Incorporated. Rebroadcast of this program in any form without express written consent is prohibited.
Every 28 seconds, a car in the U.S. is stolen. What's even more shocking is that 25% of those vehicles had the keys inside. 60% were left unlocked, and 95% had no anti-theft devices. In times like these, protect yourself from auto theft by taking extra precautions. Never leave your vehicle running or with the ignition. Always lock your doors and keep your windows closed, even when parked in front of your own home. When away, park in busy, well-lighted places and never leave valuables in plain view. Equip your car or truck with an alarm or other theft deterrent device. Never leave your vehicle registration in your car. If you do become a victim of auto theft, report it immediately. Have your make, model, license plate, and vehicle ID number available to help authorities recover your vehicle. To learn more about protecting yourself from auto theft, visit ncpc.org or contact your local law enforcement agency.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Here's hoping you're healthy and wealthy. South Florida's Health and Wealth Radio Network, AM 1470, WWNN, Pompano Beach.
AM 1470 with even more of what you're looking for. Join Bob Simon for the new Diamonds in the Rough, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons at 3:30, right here on South Florida's Health and Wealth Network.
Welcoming back to the Steve Kane Show, an old sponsor and old friend, Dr. Murray Beller, who for 6 years was part of the pain management team at Midway Medical. Today, Dr. Beller operates Belfort Doctors Center, along with Alicia Cholito, MD, and massage therapist Carrie Border, the best in the business. They offer chiropractic care, non-invasive acupuncture, electrotherapy, and ultrasound. If you've had a sports or...
Don't forget that your skin is your largest organ, and the sun can be your skin's worst enemy. Dermatologist-recommended Neutrogena products offer the ultimate protection for your skin. From makeup remover wipes to Hydro Boost Water Gel Facial Moisturizer, BJ's has your entire lineup of Neutrogena skincare products. And now through December 3rd, save $4 on any Neutrogena product at BJ's. Love your skin back and save now through December 3rd, only at BJ's.
The new COVID-19 vaccine is now available. The Fulton County Board of Health has updated COVID booster shots and flu vaccines to fight the latest variants of each illness. Remember, vaccines work. We've done an excellent job of staying up to date on vaccines, reducing the number of illnesses in our community. Continue to protect yourself and others by making an appointment at the nearest Board of Health location. The Fulton County Board of Health is here to serve you. Stay current. Visit FultonCountyBOH.com or call 770-520-7500 for more info.